Hey everyone, so right now we're just going to do a really quick tutorial on grid making and workspace customization, particularly workspace on the CPlane itself. I have a very good feeling this is going to be a very useful tutorial for what you're going to be doing in your first studio this semester. And grids are just like a really helpful way to sort of organize your space making anyway, if you need to be working in that sort of orthographic style or not. Um, so I'm going to get through some nitty gritty stuff really quickly, and it's very helpful Rhino um, rhetoric, I guess. So the first thing I want to show you is if you open the File tab and go down to Properties, this is going to be the place that you really can like customize what your viewports look like. And I definitely highly recommend just kind of playing around and seeing what all these do, especially in the document properties. You can start playing with the hatch types, line types in here, and sort of what your like rendering is going to look like. You can adjust the rendering and the shadows in the rendering and stuff like that. So really just play around in this. Right now, what we're going to really quickly touch on is units. So one way to get here besides the file thing is you can actually just type in units. And I mean, depending on whatever units you want to work in, maybe you're accustomed to meters and centimeters and stuff like that. You can work in feet and inches. This is where it goes. This is sort of how you can set up the tolerances, and then the distance display. That's one way you can adjust what it'll look like. Fractional is going to be an estimation. Decimal is going to be a very precise distance in your digital space, and you can display it in feet and inches as well. That is one command that I forgot to put on here is typing in distance. And you can learn the distance of something. Next thing is this grid option right here. So this grid option, you'll be able to see it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to this one on the front view here. You can actually adjust what your grid looks like and work on that, what the CPlane looks like, and work from that. So grid up here. You can adjust how many sort of boxes you have here to really limit that if you need to. I just put 50 in. You can hide the grid lines should you need to, and you can actually adjust how many lines are within the grid. So one thing you might notice too is there's these little micro lines in here. I'm going to turn on grid snap, which is a really good way to sort of organize everything around the CPlane. If I type in 0 and have this polyline selected, it's going to snap to the 0 part of the construction plane, the world axis there. And let's say I just wanted this line to be 1 foot big. Okay, so each of these boxes, since I have my unit set up, is 1 foot. If I type in 1 and maybe hold shift so it's orthogonal, that's giving me the option to go to 1 foot. Okay, so if I click that, next thing is if I want to have it be 1.1, each of these grids is 0.1. Right now, each of these little boxes is 0.1. So if I did just 0.1, it's just going to snap to that 0.1 option there without me even holding it down. So that's how to kind of snap to that and adjust the grid space. You can also adjust the grid space via the sort of major lines. So however many of these boxes you want within each foot. So you can adjust it to 15 for whatever reason if you want it to be like nice and not understandably mathematically for whatever reason. And so that's how to adjust that grid there. Next thing I want to show you is how to make a grid. And this is a very useful command to be working with just to populate a lot of objects or a space. So I'm just going to really quickly make a polyline, my own kind of grid over here so it's a little easier to see. This is going to be, I'm going to type in 10 to make it 10 feet and hold shift to make it orthogonal. And then there's 1,000 ways to do this, but if I twist this and hold shift and then hit alt while holding shift, I can make a second. Oh, okay, I don't know what this is. I can make a second one, and then if I hit M to move something and grab that, I can just pretty much make my own grid here. Even though I'm making it backwards, but that's on purpose. So one sort of cumbersome way to create a grid, but sort of a helpful command to know is divide. If you type in divide and have an object selected, it'll ask you up here how many segments you want it to be divided into. For convenience sake, I'm going to do 10, but you can type in any number. You also have the option to split it or have it make points on the line. Splitting it is going to split it into 10 separate polylines right here. But if I just type in 10 and don't have split, it's going to give me lines, give me little dots that evenly divides this line. Say I select this polyline and hit copy over here. I can then painstakingly create my own grid like this, which is, for some reason, maybe some people's preferred way to do it, especially if you don't have like a really even grid. The next way I would recommend doing it, though, is to type in array. Array is going to provide an array of different ways to do this. So sort of not ways to do it, different amounts of that object that you're creating. So up here it says number in X direction. I'm going to just work in the top because that's a more common way to do this. Number in X direction, usually 1 in this means 3, so I'm going to want the lines to go up this way. So if I typed in 1, I don't want any lines to go this way right now. That's going to make no lines go that way. But in this case, let's say I want 10 lines to go in the Y direction. Hit enter, and then, I don't want any in the Z direction, so I'm just going to hit right click there. I'm going to go from here. You can go from any really point at all that you want to, but this is going to array them this way. Sometimes OSnap is kind of a pain to have for this because it'll snap to random stuff. You'll find that to be a pain later. You can also determine how big you want this grid. So I'm just going to say I want it to be in 1 foot increments. So by typing 1, now each of these grid lines you'll see on my CPlane, it's at 1 foot each. If I want it to be 10 feet, I can space them out to 10 feet. Sorry, I typed in 110 there. If I want 10 feet, I can space it out to 10 feet there. And that would be 10 feet in the Rhino plane. And then, if I wanted, actually that was way more than 10 feet, but if I wanted to, whatever you want to do. So that's the way to sort of array something. And then if I wanted to make a full-on grid, and then hit enter after you do that. They'll turn pink, and then hit enter, and that'll confirm that. And then turn OSnap back on. I'm going to put this here, and then I'm going to array it. In this case, I want to go in the X direction, so I'm going to hit 10, and then right-click, just to confirm that. I'm going to hit 1, because it's set at 10 right now from the last move. Right-click, and then just keep Z the same. Let's be wild and move it from the midpoint. And then if I type in 10 again, I guess if I type in 1 again, oh, that's 11. I can make a grid right there. And then hit enter after that final click. And then from there, you have a grid set up. And if you wanted to, you can array that in of itself. And then 1, and just create some enormous unnecessary grid, and hit enter. And that's the way array works. It's a really good way to populate a space really quickly with a lot of different things. That's what that line is. And then if you type in distance and measure something, that'll give you the exact measurement of that thing. If you type in distance by right-clicking, I did it there, you can get the unit models and adjust how you want the distance to display. So let's say I wanted it to be in fractional inches. If I click from there and go over, it'll give me 324 inches. Hope this helps.